Um, Hi everybody, and I guess thanks for joining this morning. I think it's brilliant that we are at this stage, and it's down to a considerable amount of work from lots of people, not least our four people from our lived and living experience panel in United to Prevent Suicide, who have hugely contributed their time to help shape what is a really powerful campaign. I'm sure you'll agree when we get to the end of this. So I'm very grateful to them and to everybody who's been involved in the co-design of the work, and particularly to the team at Electrify who've managed to pull it all together in what is a very quick time. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to hand over to them and yeah, just be prepared to have your mind blown.
For good reasons, obviously, for good reasons.
Obviously.
Well, good morning, everybody. We'll get going. We have a lot to take you through this morning in this campaign briefing. This is the first of a few different sessions that we'll be putting on this week ahead of our launch on Wednesday, the 16th of April, which will come 2 days short of exactly 5 months since we started this process. And you'll meet and learn more about these four extraordinary people very soon. As you would expect, this is a presentation about suicide, and this is a very bold, hard-hitting campaign. So you may find some of what we talk about distressing today. If you do, please take some time. It's a tough watch in places. We are starting this week what we hope will be Scotland's biggest ever conversation about suicide. And it's a campaign that has been entirely co-produced from the absolute beginning. So everything you see has had the involvement of a group of people who have given a great deal of themselves to be part of this journey. It is a deeply moving campaign. It is tough in places, but we think also there is an enormous amount of hope. And so everything we sought to do has been with our co-production group, and I'll speak about that in a moment, but I want to identify the three principles which shape our campaign. So the first one of these is that we want to normalise the idea of having a conversation about suicide, of talking about it in a way that helps us bring forward and give people confidence to ask. We need to normalise the word, and we've seen evidence even in the last few days. Tracy and I were in a media interview last week with a journalist who frankly wasn't very comfortable about the whole subject matter. So we need to normalise it. We need to give people the confidence to ask about suicide. And this links to something Lauren often talks about, our two sides of the coin: help seeking, help giving. And then we want to direct people to Scotland's brand new suicide prevention website. And it is a website, suicideprevention.scot. So confidence, normalising, and the website itself. And that shapes everything that we are trying to do. Our co-production group followed the key principles that we use in everything that we are doing. So lived and living experience was at the absolute heart of it, both through the lived and living experience panel, but also through the United to Prevent Suicide social movement. And to stress to everybody, safeguarding has been absolutely central. And I would want to pay tribute to Tracy, who has done an utterly phenomenal job in keeping all of us safe throughout this process. It is a very difficult topic, as I've said. We've also had to go at pace. That comes with all sorts of challenges. Tracy's done an amazing job. We have professional and practice experience, which is vital, including colleagues from local areas in Ayrshire and Fife who've been part of that group as well, to challenge us to think not just in a national way, but think about local communities. And of course, many of those people also have their own lived experience. And we've had terrific expertise from the academic advisory group as well. So those three strands coming together. And importantly, we've worked in a way that really focuses on time, space, compassion. We're not always using the words, but it's how we're trying to think, how we're trying to work as a group.
So in terms of the kind of process that we went through, and I'll introduce you to the four people with lived experience that have helped bring this campaign to life and gave themselves wholeheartedly to this process. We went through the co-production process in sort of six broad phases, and I won't spend too long on these. But there was some benchmarking data that was redone at the beginning of the process. We identified key principles and linked that into a campaigns framework that was previously co-produced last year. And we developed messaging, tone and principles, as well as concepts which were tested externally with a user generated audience through Sticky Beak that did some external testing on our campaign messaging and some campaign visuals a little bit later on as well. And then we were deliberately not saying what the campaign is at this point, because we'll get to that shortly. So this was as much about thinking about different ideas, ruling in what was going to work, how bold we wanted to be, etc. We went through the whole creative process, which included filming, photography, and rollout of lots of different assets. And we tested the kind of film and the content as we went and reviewed and used that insight that we had from testing and got ready to launch it. So I'd like to introduce the four people that have a front and centre of this campaign. So we've got Claire, who lost her nephew Jerry, mum Prue, and brother-in-law Sandy to suicide. We have Ross, who had made a plan to die by suicide. Shauna, who lost her son Dylan, and Laura, who has attempted on her life 3 times. So a mix of people, a mix of being bereaved by suicide, attempting suicide, planning suicide, and we've brought them all together for this campaign and filmed at Carlton Hill in Edinburgh on a nice sunny day. Actually, it was quite nice, bit windy, but we brought everyone together and we did that in a day, and then went out to film people at their own locations. And the idea of bringing them together was very, very powerful. Each of them wrote a letter to either themselves or somebody that they had lost, and in doing that, it was very, very unscripted, very natural, and extremely powerful. So just to kind of introduce you to this, we're going to just show one of the letters that was written by Claire.
Dear Jerry, you kept quiet about feeling suicidal. While she spoke about your worries and struggles in life, I listened but didn't pick up on the intensity of your pain. You masked this well through your laughter and jokes. I wish you had talked to me about how bad you were feeling. Your suicide has left us with such sadness, so many unanswered questions and what ifs. Being bereaved by suicide has made me seek out information to understand more. This has helped me to support my son Andrew through his own dark times. Even though suicide is such an upsetting thought, I have learned to ask Andrew if he felt suicidal and had a suicide plan. These uncomfortable questions helped him to talk in a space deeper below the surface. And although it was difficult for him to share his painful thoughts about suicide, and heartbreaking for us to hear, this has helped us to understand how he's really feeling and possible ways to support him. I've sat with Andrew on many nights, sometimes in silence, just to be there with him. I've encouraged him to talk, to be open and share his painful thoughts and feelings with me. It's been difficult to get him the help he needs, but we are getting there together. He is not on his own. We are slowly moving forward. It takes time, and no doubt we will have many ups and downs to come. But there is light in the darkness. There is always love and hope. There is help out there, but reach out, talk to someone, don't give up. Our experience has shown us it's finding the right help from the right person, and this takes time, but it is possible. We never got to say goodbye to Jerry. We miss you dearly, your smile, your laughter, your funny jokes and voiceovers. Your suicide has changed our lives, but please know we hold you close in our hearts forever. Love you loads, Claire. It's a hard thing to read, isn't it? It's like...
So that's Claire's letter, and you'll be able to read those letters, you'll be able to see them, and I'll talk you through a little bit more of that in a moment. It leads us to our campaign. What if a conversation about suicide could save a life? And we're saying that suicide is a topic that makes many of us nervous. It can feel like the hardest thing in the world. What if I say the wrong thing? Could I make the situation worse? Maybe I'm worrying over nothing and would look foolish to bring it up. But here's something lots of people don't realise. Talking about suicide is the best way to prevent it from happening. And this is the start of our biggest ever conversation about suicide.
I wish more than anything that we'd both been able to talk, because I wasn't ready to let you go.
I believed that it would be the only way to end my suffering.
Your suicide has left us with such sadness, so many unanswered questions and what ifs.
And it's like nothing will ever change. It will and it can if you stay alive. This is what I wish I could have told myself before I tried to end my life. I mean, it is the hardest thing, is talking.
Jerry did talk loads and I did listen, but I never ever thought to say to him, are you feeling suicidal?
People are scared and don't know how to react when you talk about suicide, but you don't need to be an expert.
And the most important thing you can do, I think, is listen.
Standing on top of the mountain looking out gave me perspective and the headspace I couldn't find below the clouds. With Megan, it was really a sense of that non-judgmental side where I could say things to her that how I was feeling and that she wouldn't think negatively of me.
So it wasn't about your friend fixing everything for you, it was just about giving you that chance to find some hope.
Just about being there for someone and just saying you're not on your own.
I think if you've found the courage or the strength to ask for help and it doesn't seem to come, not to be discouraged by that, but to ask again.
You were there to listen and make me feel a little less alone.
There is light in the darkness. There is always love and hope.
If you can just hang on for one more day, that day will turn into 2. Before you know it, you'll have managed to stay alive for longer than you ever imagined.
I wish that anyone had known how to ask you, are you thinking about suicide?
So that's our lead film. It's the top point of the campaign. It's the start of a huge amount of content. I hope you agree it's moving. I hope you agree it's hard to watch, and I hope you agree that there is some hope in there as well. It's a key part of our campaign with a huge amount to follow. I also just want to highlight at the very end, and I don't think Laura's with us this morning, but if you remember there, a little dog, Barney, ran towards Laura, and that's Laura's dog. And he's provided a lot of comfort in difficult times over recent years. A week after filming that, Barney passed away. Laura was determined that in the way that Barney had helped her, he should be able to help others. And so she wanted him to remain in the film as his last thing, which I think probably says everything we need to know about Laura and the other people that feature in this campaign. Just a couple of other bits. I'm pleased to say that we have had the lead film translated for British Sign Language, so there will be a version of that available as well. Everything else will be fully captioned using best practice. Now, you might be wondering how we got to the point of having a campaign with so much openness in terms of conversation. How do you find structure? When our 4 participants wrote their letters, something they did with Tracy and myself, working one-to-one, working in a way that worked for them, we then took the final versions of the letters and we looked back at our public awareness campaigns framework to develop what we've called here a thematic framework. a sense of what are the different topics that we want to make sure that we cover. And we use this as a way to guide us and to map absolutely every piece of content against these different themes to ensure there was a balance of boldness, a balance of hope, and a balance of advice that we would be able to give people. Now, the letters that each person read were then followed by a conversation, as Lauren mentioned. And this is the bit we didn't bargain for. In our jobs, we quite often do these type of conversations where you bring people together and they're here to talk about something that might be really powerful. What quite often happens is that we need to engage in those conversations. We need to guide them. We need to steer them. We sometimes need to ask questions. On the day, I asked one question in the entire time. The group took charge of their own discussions, and that changed the type of content we had very substantially from what we expected we might get. And that led us to this.
What happens when 4 people with their own deeply personal experiences of suicide come together? One of the most extraordinary conversations you'll ever see. I'm Laura, and along with 3 others, we each shared a letter we'd written to a loved one or ourselves for our new campaign, What If a Conversation About Suicide Could Save a Life? Then we talked about what we've learned on our journey and what we want others to know. Because talking about suicide is the best way to prevent it from happening. This is the conversation from Suicide Prevention Scotland.
And so we have taken almost every single bit of that conversation, probably well in excess of 99.5% of it, and shaped it into 4 long-form online TV programs or video podcasts, whatever you like to call it. They last around 15 to 20 minutes each. Now, they won't be for everybody. However, for colleagues on this call this morning, I would suggest that you watch all 4 of these. They are extraordinary. I've just been watching them again over the weekend and I've seen them many times now. You will get a window into a conversation that you'd be hard pressed to find anywhere else. And that is testament to the 4 participants in the campaign. So each person reads their letter and then the conversation follows. And you see how all 4 react, respond to each other, how they gently prompt and probe questions of each other, tease out some of the themes. It is incredible to watch. We're launching new channels on Wednesday. So up until this point, Suicide Prevention Scotland has been on X, YouTube, Medium for our blogs, and Podbean for our podcasts. We're introducing Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And these channels are now there. They are not populated with any content with the exception of Instagram. So I could show you a nice screenshot of how it's coming together. But you are absolutely encouraged to start following them with content about to come flooding out from Wednesday. And we've also got a new website, suicideprevention.scot, which I'll speak about in a moment. That includes the campaign landing page, a place where we brought all of these stories together, the messaging, some key links and advice, and that will sit at suicideprevention.scot/what if. Part of the campaign focuses on the idea of finding hope. And so each of our 4 participants also, and you'll have gathered, they have given so much of themselves, agreed to do an interview with us, agreed to do a deeply personal interview with us. And I interviewed 2 of our participants and Lauren interviewed the other 2 of our participants so that we had the time and space with them to explore their story, explore what they learned. So I want to share with you one of those before Lauren comes back in. This is Laura's story.
I've always been my biggest self-critic, so I've always thought that everyone else's life sorted out and sussed, and I could never understand like what was it that I missed. I attempted suicide 3 times, and the biggest thing that changed for me was realising that I had to try and stay alive for myself and not because I felt like I should for other people, because that's really hard. To be able to speak to someone and say, look, I feel like I just want to end my life, and to have somebody listen to you and go, That must be horrible. I think that's the most compassionate and the most caring thing. I do suffer a lot with anxiety, and some days it's debilitating and I can't go into a supermarket, or I struggle to walk the dog. Other days I can go for a walk and I'll smile at every person I see. The more I've actually opened up about how I feel and my challenges, the more people say, oh my gosh, I would never have thought that about you. Actually, this happens to me as well. Talking to me is one of the hardest things, and it's how my avoidance behaviours, and I hide myself away. And it was the hardest thing in the world, was starting to open up to my partner and my friends and say, look, actually, I'm really, really, really struggling today. You know, when you see like rainbows and you always feel, oh gosh, that's really magical when you see a rainbow. Sometimes I could see a rainbow and the colours aren't vivid at all. There'll be no magic there. And other days it's as if someone's just turned a light on and it's crystal clear how beautiful that rainbow can be. And I think like that's what I try and hold on to in my darker days.
So for these films, and we'll play another one in a second, I just want to talk about the amount of content that we've got. So we've gone through some of it, and there'll be more to come. So this is a good point to kind of put it all on a slide so you can see the sheer volume of content that we have. For the Finding Hope films, you'll have noticed there that we were in the Botanics with Laura in Glasgow. So we took everyone to a safe place that they felt comfortable getting some photography and some lovely B-roll that just moves it away from the location of Calton Hill where we shot the interviews. So we've got there's over 300 assets, probably more as we keep rolling out the campaign over the next few weeks. Everything's optimized for all of the different channels. So we have the lead film, obviously the Finding Hope series, and we'll play Shona's film in a second as well for you to have a look at. Tons of clips and short form content for reels, stories, and social posts off the back of those as well. The 4 longer form conversation pieces, which we've played the intro for, that just gives kind of unfiltered view of the conversation as a podcast. We've also got lead ad content at 30 seconds and 15 seconds for YouTube Shorts, and some out of home media, which we'll come on to in a second. There's loads of obviously lovely B-roll shots, silent clips of each of the 4 participants. Tons and tons of quotes that came from the letters, the conversations, and everything that we captured. And as Lawrence mentioned, we've branded up some new social media channels. So I'd like to, just before I talk about the paid media and the out-of-home stuff, just introduce you to Shona's film as well.
He was funny, daft, had a fabulous sense of humour and a brilliant laugh, a totally infectious laugh. So when I think about him smiling, I think I can hear him laughing. It was hard in his last sort of year because he didn't smile and laugh as much. All his effort was on getting through each day. Dylan was 18 when he took his own life. He had been suffering from body dysmorphic disorder for a number of years. We didn't really understand how much courage it took for him to get through each day. We knew what a struggle it was for him, but we didn't imagine that he was having any thoughts of suicide, and we never thought that we needed to ask him if he was suicidal. But with hindsight now, that would have given him the opportunity to talk more openly about how he was feeling, and that might have been the one thing that changed it for him. It's hard, but if you can ask someone how they're feeling, it doesn't have to be, are you suicidal? If you've noticed that they're not feeling themselves, you can ask them, you know, how are you? I've noticed you're not feeling yourself. But it might lead on to then asking if they had suicidal thoughts. Saying it out loud is quite scary, but also what if they say yes? what do I do? But actually you don't have to do anything. It's not your job to fix it. It's just your job to listen. What you're doing is opening up an opportunity for that person to say, yeah, I'm not okay. If we'd known more about it, we might have talked to Dylan more about it. We might have asked him directly if he was feeling suicidal or having thoughts of suicide, and given him more of a chance to get the help that he needed. It amazed me all the time how strong he was just getting through every day. I wish people could have seen that.
So again, another really powerful story. And we've also got one from Claire and Ross as well that you'll be able to see. So in terms of the out of home, we've stretched this as far and as wide as we possibly can with what we've got to work with. So we will feature across approximately 66 different sites. So there is YouTube pre and mid-roll adverts. There will be paid media running across Meta in multiple placements across Facebook and Instagram, and that will also pull onto some network advertising channels. In terms of print, and I'll show some of the kind of print creative in a second. We have gone for bus rear advertising across Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Inverness. We've got some roadside billboard ads as well, and some 4-sheet rail placement advertisements across those areas too, and some ferry advertising for islands and Orkney specifically in terms of the Orcadian print in terms of newspaper and on their website, because that is where Ross is from. So we wanted to make sure that we were covering as much of Scotland as we possibly could with the budget that we've got. And Republic of Media, who are a partner in this, assess that around 70% of the population will see creative an average of 3.6 times across these different channels. So it's not bad in terms of kind of how we're stretching it. So I'll just walk through a couple of different slides that show how the campaign sort of translates into print and out of home materials. So we've got some kind of 48 sheet larger format content here, and some portrait versions as well, and also some social media content. And as we said, there is so many assets and so many clips. This is just to show you a little glimpse of how that looks using different photography and different images. So a really, really important thing, I guess, to take away from today as well, that we will be launching our digital toolkit, where it's a free digital ordering service, just with a simple jot form that can be filled in. And we've got loads of pre-designed assets that can be co-branded, so that people can order materials and use them as well in their local areas. And there's also an option to order anything else that you feel might be missing or that would be useful to have. There's some things like posters, for example, that are print ready. Unfortunately, we're not able to print things off and distribute those, but it is something that people may want to use. So it will be accessed from Wednesday, and after you've placed an order, you'll be able to receive a confirmation email. So there's loads of things on there, like email, footers, as I've said, posters, social media pack, graphics, website banners, motion content, static content. So you'll be able to go in and have a look, and that will all be dual branded as well.
And just bear in mind, there is that option to ask us for anything else that you need, subject to some kind of fair use. But we appreciate if you've got an idea and you think it would help, we will do our very best. And yes, Douglas, everything will come ready with that. So you will get print ready versions with crop marks, you'll get digital versions. Everything will be supplied, and it'll be clear on the order page as well what you're getting. Let's talk briefly about the new Suicide Prevention Scotland website, which launches at the same time on Wednesday. A lot of work's gone into what is phase one of the project, which is providing support for adults and young people in particular, and also helping people understand a little bit more about the Suicide Prevention Scotland community of people and organisations. So there is a lot going on the website. It's been developed again with a working group of people across the different key areas. It has the campaign featuring, it has the new service directory, which if you haven't already submitted to, please do. Important storytelling, and of course bits and pieces around Suicide Prevention Scotland itself. And just to show you a little more, this is the campaign landing page as of this morning, where you can see a whole range of content there. Some powerful quotes, links to all the letters as well. So that just gives you a flavour. You'll see much more of that on Wednesday. I think it will start with about 34 pages, including a whole range of resources and links that have been vetted and checked. So there are around, if I remember correctly, 11 pages for adults on a range of different themes, and I think it's 7 for children and young people. And it's on that site as well that the toolkit is available in the I Work in Suicide Prevention section. When it comes to measuring success, there are 3 things we want to look at, one of which will be metrics. We have access to a live data dashboard, so we want to think about visibility, social media growth, engagement. However, we are really, really clear that this shouldn't become a vanity exercise. Just because a gazillion people might see something doesn't necessarily mean that it gives people the confidence to ask, that it doesn't mean we are encouraging people to have those kind of conversations. And we've pushed really hard with our media buyers at Republic of Media to think about the fact that success in this campaign is not solely down to just producing large numbers. And that's a big point we want to make to everybody, that metrics is just one indicator. We're going to think about confidence, as we've said. So 2 things in particular we're going to do. YouGov survey data that Lauren mentioned earlier that shaped the very start of this campaign. We ran a survey in December. We're going to go again with that in May. It will be the 3rd time it's done with identical questions. What we want to see is if there is any change. We can't necessarily call that definitive, but it will certainly be an indicator. And our partners at Sticky Beak are also introducing a new beta review process for campaigns. So we're going to take an audience or a group of 200 people and ask them to give us their feedback on that campaign. And that group, as with the original testing, will have a bias towards people in higher disproportionate areas of SIMD. And engagement's really important as well. The use of the resources, the engagement with us in local campaigns, the opportunity to use this and have control across the country. We don't want to sit gripping it centrally. So anything that we can do that allows us to build, grow, amplify the campaign will be incredibly important.
And we really are just at the start line. I always think of the start of a launch campaign as you're ready at the beginning of the race. You've done a bit of prep, you've warmed up, you've prepared everything. But now we're at the start line and there's a long way to go. So a few of the things that we're going to think about over the next wee while, launching a What If podcast in time for World Suicide Prevention Day in 2025. So that's kind of building on those like longer form conversations. So vodcast style, bringing in different people, breaking it into different categories. For example, we might think about a focus around children and young people, for example. I want to continue develop Finding Hope film series and new stories, potentially introduce new ambassadors so that we can keep refreshing the campaign, but everything will always sit under the What If a Conversation About Suicide umbrella. And you can imagine the amount of content that we can get from different people and different perspectives. And as well, continue to develop the website, which is also just at its phase 1 start line. So thinking about including a new colleague hub and also integrating and building additional content and original toolkit content that people can access from Suicide Prevention Scotland. And just as a kind of last slide before we think about any questions, so it's going live at 9 a.m. on the 16th of April, and there'll be an online launch event happening at 12. The digital media, the meta, those ads, the YouTube pre-roll will all go live the following day on the 17th of April. On the 21st, that is when the out of home print on the kind of bus rears, billboards, train floor sheets, that all launches. Then throughout various different dates and runs through until the end of May. And we will continue to do weekly performance review meetings, the first one being on Tuesday, the 29th of April. That's looking at the dashboard, measuring the success. And as Lawrence mentioned, just on the last couple of slides, we will redo the YouGov survey and some evaluation testing in late May to see how that's going, to get some data and insight around that. And then into summer, we'll be thinking about the next stage of development, which I just spoke about. So in terms of World Suicide Prevention Day, a podcast series, and identifying more stories and keeping going through the race and keeping running with it. And that concludes our presentation, which we've done very well to do in 38 minutes, which gives us some time for reflections or questions from anyone. So we'll just open that up.
I can only see Hayless here. Almost everybody else has switched their cameras off. There we go. Right, let's have a look. What have we got? Got some questions coming in. Let's hear from Trevor first.
Well, first of all, congratulations to everybody involved. That's a huge amount of work, and looking forward to seeing how all the ingredients you've assembled pan out. So that's my main comment. Well done to everybody involved, and it looks like a really thoughtful and well put together piece. I guess obviously as the embargo comes to an end on Wednesday, we'll all be doing various local briefings. But I guess the more we've got of any things like some of the slide sequences and so on, if there are any things that could help us doing I'm thinking of briefings to our local management systems and so on. It sounds like there's plenty of content there we'll be able to draw on, but anything extra around perhaps some of the background story, if there's a couple of brief pieces around that, you probably have to hand things like already that we could utilize. That would be great. I'm just thinking of doing some briefings myself during the next few days to kind of more in-house folk as well as the public thing going live. But anyway, so it looks like a fantastic job.
So we have a very, I mean, it won't be brief, but we have a very detailed, I don't know exactly how we would describe it, report or document that we have tracked everything that we have done from beginning to end. It's about 17 pages, and we're still adding to it. It will eventually make its way onto OutNav. I try my best to not know where that is, but I know where it is. But absolutely, we can share that with anybody. It tells the full story and a lot of the deeper rationale, if you like, in terms of each step. So more than happy when we send out the video from this session this morning, we'll put it onto an unlisted YouTube link, but we can also send a link out to that document, which people may find very helpful. They may not, but hopefully they will find it helpful. Hayless.
Just on the back of that, Lawrence, I guess one of the things we haven't mentioned is the fact that we have sent a briefing out to services that we, have in our heads may see an increase in the demand. So Scottish Government have sent it out to mental health services, unscheduled care, TSIs, Royal Colleges, NHS chief execs. The COSLA have sent it to the Health and Social Care Partnership chief officers, chief social work officers, to Solace, and it's gone through PHS to the deep end practices, community pharmacy, Scottish Ambulance, police, fire and rescue, NHS 24, breathing space, RNLI, and mountain rescue. So quite a lot of people have had a briefing as well to know that this campaign and website are coming.
And you did that whole list off the top of your head. It was...
I've got it open on my computer, Lawrence. I'm not that clever.
Trevor.
Yeah, many thanks for that, Helen. I think I did see, I was sent a copy of something that had gone out, but have we been sent the same, is it the same communication to all those groups, or is it customized for each?
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same basic communication, just to highlight that it's coming. It's not got any detail about the campaign or anything, but it's just to highlight that it is coming, and therefore they may see an increase in referrals or demand.
And I think it's important to stress Wednesday, as Lauren said, is the start line. I mean, if we take in very simple terms, there's currently only us following the Facebook page. In fact, it's probably only me following the Facebook page. So we go from a standing start. So we work our way through bit by bit, building up. And that's part of how we'll go over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we have a session, an invitation's gone out to circa 400 people on Wednesday to do a kind of wider briefing, as well as we kind of start that process. It's a little bit different to what's gone before, because we're not doing sort of 2-3 weeks of briefings. We're starting the campaign, and that's a bit around the idea of starting as we mean to go on. It's time to get on with it. So working in that way, everybody will have the opportunity to be involved. And this is not, I don't know whether we were clear about this, this is not a 4-week campaign. This is a forever campaign, effectively. I mean, it won't be forever, but it's something that has to keep going and keep going and keep going. So that's a big sort of bit of our thinking. Gillian.
Morning, Lawrence. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think that's an incredibly powerful but also very hopeful campaign. And just to say, we've got Mental Health Awareness Week obviously in the middle of the campaign period, and I think the sense of community in that. So I just wonder, will there be any sort of peak in that time for the campaign, or are we hoping that organisations, as Hale has mentioned, will actually make the link and sort of join, some support there? I'm thinking about, we usually do some comms round about that, and I'm just thinking about how that might link up together.
So our plan for Mental Health Awareness Week, I can't, because there's so many people here, I can't quite see if they are here, but we have a new podcast series with Public Health Scotland that we're going to launch. Then we're still at quite an early editing stage, and I think we're still 3 weeks or so, maybe 4 weeks away from that week. So that will be another piece of heartbeat content, if you like, that will go out at that point. When people see the toolkit, they'll realize there's an opportunity, or they won't realize. When they see the toolkit, they'll see there's an opportunity that's to get resources and to order things. And that isn't, again, like opens on Wednesday, closes in a week. That's there on an ongoing rolling basis. So we will also, as we go, probably make adjustments based on what people need. There'll be a bit of learning and a bit of reflecting on that. Everything's been built in a way that is very flexible. So if we find that there's a real interest in a particular type of resource or a particular type of asset, whatever it might be, we're in a pretty good place to be able to make an adjustment in terms of that. So hopefully that's reassuring. Brilliant. Mary Grace, come in, Fife.
Hello.
I said Fife in the presentation. I didn't mean Fife. I meant Forth Valley. I've just realised that.
Yeah, I did have a slight panic thinking, ooh. No, that's fine.
You missed all the meetings.
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask, I presume on Wednesday morning when it goes live, there'll be some sort of comms that go around with all the links so that we then have that we can forward on and circulate. And I take it that there'll be something for us to look out for on Wednesday morning when Embargo lifts and it all goes live, that we can then just cascade out and get it out there.
Yeah, we'll send out the video from this session, the key links that you need. Yes, is the answer to the question. You'll probably get it before Wednesday, though.
Okay,
but our aim would be to get that out, hopefully tail end today. That's the plan.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Come in, Super Diane.
Thank you. I actually was just going to ask a similar question to Mary Grace, but just thought I'd take the opportunity to say this is an amazing piece of work, so well done. And yeah, it's very, very powerful. I did have a lump in my throat at certain points. But yeah, my question was just going to be around, I'd had some colleagues ask, based on the brief briefing that Hayley's mentioned, if there was going to be any more information for them. But yeah, you said that's Wednesday, so
yeah, and as I say, we'll get it out and across today, so that you have the wider document for those of you that would like to give probably a couple of hours of your time, and then links to the website and to watch back this particular session. So yeah, definitely. What we're also looking at doing, I'm aware that some people may be on holiday today. Apparently there's holidays this time of year. We will offer a follow-up session if anybody is particularly interested next Thursday who couldn't make it today. I mean, we will send out the video from this, but we're happy to repeat the session, take any questions next Thursday afternoon.
Can I just ask as well, the on Wednesday morning, the briefing, in terms of who can come along to that?
Anyone,
okay. So can I forward that to our steering group then?
100%, absolutely. Okay. Anybody who has I would say a professional interest, but absolutely anybody is welcome along. The invite itself can be forwarded. I believe Rory has made that so that it can go forward to absolutely anybody. It'll be similar to this session, but obviously a kind of wider audience that might include lots of different kind of organisations, other third sector organisations, and so on.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you all for some of the lovely comments. I've screenshotted them so I can, in particular, send them to the 4 participants, so that they can see that. I know that they'll be greatly heartened by that, because yeah, they have given so much of themselves. And just highlighting Leanne's point, if you haven't already written "I consent" in the chat, I'd be most grateful if you can do that. Just so that we can make sure that this video gets shared around. I know 1 or 2 people came in a little bit later, so much appreciated for doing that. If you've done it already, don't worry. We're all... Oh, there we are. A flood more. Any other questions or comments, thoughts? Trevor.
I think you probably mentioned this already, but I'm trying to take lots in this morning, but I'm pretty sure you'll be doing kind of a media reaction tracking. I know you've done these many things like this in the past, so it'd be just comment. It'd be great to see a digest of that further down the line as part of your evaluation. I'm sure that's already in your plans, but and obviously it may be that some of the media response to parts of it is less than what we would like, or better than what we'd like. So it's just an interest of mine that at the various points when you take stock, it'll be very interesting to see the kind of all forms of media, not just the kind of traditional media reaction. So anyway, I'm sure that's in your plans, but it'd be fascinating to see responses to that as it evolves.
Yeah, definitely. And we had traditional media coverage started yesterday in the Herald. Beautiful piece with Laura, and a piece in the Scottish Sun Online, which I believe will go into print this week. And we've got another piece coming up with the Scottish Daily Mail. I need to confirm exactly when that is. So yeah, we'll be there. There is so many different strands, so many different plates being spun, but it's fun. It's important. Hayley, back to you.
Back to me. Well, thanks again, and as Lawrence has said, there's lots of stuff still going on. Lots of stuff will happen over the next couple of days, so that we're good to go on Wednesday morning. It will only be a success, I think, if we all help support it. So please do follow all those channels that Lawrence talked about on social media and share widely with your networks. Because we are Suicide Prevention Scotland, and we have responsibility, I guess, for trying to get this out far and wide. So thank you to all of you for all your efforts that you do every single day, but even more so over the coming weeks as you help us share these messages.
Brilliant. Steve.
Hi. Yep. Great stuff. Magic. These are words that I'm using here just now. I'm just thinking, I'd like to make part of this messaging clear to adults that, the themes that that you've highlighted apply to children and young people as well. It's not like, conversations just happen with adults. It's about conversations that should be happening with kids as well. So I'm just conscious of that and how I would be trying to promote this in schools, for example. And just to make, I'm just saying that as a statement, really, just for others to maybe hear. And I'm keen to look on the website to see how, perhaps that message is there also.
So the campaign is for adults. It's not been designed for children and young people, which is part of the overall public awareness campaign framework. So young people have not been involved in the co-development of it. The advertising is targeted towards 18 plus at this point. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't, won't, can't be specific activity around children and young people, but our experiences, and it's something that I know that Shirley was also involved in with the previous United to Prevent Suicide campaign, means that the way in which we approach that type of content, that type of messaging, has to be quite different for children and young people. There is learnings for the adults to absolutely sort of take that forward, but quite specific in the way the content needs to be thought about. So there's absolutely learnings and absolutely advice that's there. Shona's talking about her 18-year-old son, who absolutely is a young person. So there is, it's absolutely there. But I think it would be important to stress, I think Chris is maybe on the call, just in case he's keeling over somewhere. This hasn't been developed with children and young people at this stage. But there is certainly things that we can all take from what's there. I think particularly around some of the stuff that Shona talks about, and also a little bit around Claire and the way she has supported her son, who is probably just out of young person bracket now, but only just from that point of view. Great stuff. Well, thank you to everybody for your time this morning. Really appreciate such a huge turnout. I wasn't expecting 50 odd people turning up. Lauren's disappointed. She thought there'd be 100, but such is life. But really looking forward to getting your support. Really looking forward to starting the journey on Wednesday morning. And of course, if at any point you want to get in touch with us, we'll make sure that our details are on the note that I'm hoping Leanne will help us distribute today, and really happy to pick up with any questions or thoughts and feedback, etc. Over the days and weeks and months ahead. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well done, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.